Hillary Ritt, and I am going to start sharing our opening slide. I want to thank you all for being here. Today's webinar is sponsored by the Institute for Museum and Library Services. I'm going to get that slide up here. We want to thank them. Today's webinar is actually the America250 Kentucky Program Ideas from Kentucky's Public Library Staff. It's going to be presented by Hillary Delaney and Melissa Gibson. And so I want to thank them for being here. I want to go over a couple of housekeeping things. Today's webinar is again sponsored by the IMLS. And we will hold any questions until the end, but please feel free to type things in the chat if you've got questions or anything of that nature. Slides for today's webinar will be available in your course room, and then today's webinar is being recorded and captioned. If you've got questions about captioning, you can put those in the chat. My colleagues have put in the link to live captioning stream text in the chat, so that's available. And then the webinar should be available, the recording should be available in a few weeks. So without further ado, I'm going to go on and start briefly with just some intro information about America250, some resources that are available, and then I will pass it over to my colleagues. All right, so America250 Kentucky, so this is 2026. It's the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence will be this year. And so I just want to share a few resources that are available. These slides again will be available for you. But just some things that are available as you think about planning for your activities this year. The Library of Congress has some resources that I've got up here on the screen. Also want to let you know that the American Association for State and Local History has that image you saw at the beginning. That is a booklet, online booklet that you can access. It has ideas and resources, ways to connect. And then there is a field guide that's also available. And then another resource that they've made available, and those links are there on the screen. I will provide them shortly in the chat after I stop speaking, but all those are available online to help you as you plan. And then the Kentucky Historical Society has a wealth of resources as well. They've been very helpful in providing support for KDLA. They've done a webinar with us, and then there's other resources that they've made available. They've got focus areas and themes to think about. So as you plan programs, you can plan those around the themes that they've got. Then there's educator resources, and then they have a programming calendar that they've made available. And last but not least, I touched on this just a moment ago, but KDLA has offered 2 different webinars related to America250, and then specifically America250 Kentucky. So one was celebrating 250 libraries and their impact, and that webinar is really an overview of America250 resources that the Kentucky Historical Society has developed, their themes. The second webinar is a partnership with KDLA and the Kentucky Historical Society, and that's touching on digital resources that are available freely to you all to use. And so that's something that's available. Those are available to watch on KDLA's archived webinars page or YouTube, or they're available in the online learning portal. So those resources are available, and I will be putting the links to these in the chat here in a moment. Again, these are going to be available in your course packet too. And I will share, now I'm going to share Hillary Delaney's slides so that you can hear from her. And Hillary, if you, I think she's getting ready to join. Folks, if you've got additional questions, and Sarah, or I see folks having questions with sound, we'll do our best to navigate, but just remember this is being recorded, so if you need to come back later, that's okay too.
All right, I can hear you all now. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Oh, Are you ready for me? I had to leave and come
Yes,
back
ma'am.
in.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're
Great.
great.
All right. Well, I apologize for my voice. I have a terrible cold, but we did have a fire drill earlier today here at the library. So I'm glad we got that out of the way before this happened. So I'm happy to be here with you all, and I have to apologize that my slides are so ridiculously patriotic that I'm going to plan on holding your attention through all my red, white, and blue visuals. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we are doing some of the programs that we're doing here at Boone County Public Library this year. We have some things going on kind of throughout the spring and into the fall, even beyond the 4th of July. So we thought that might actually be an opportunity. Grant funding has been huge for us. We actually are fortunate enough to have a full-time grant writer that has just been added to our staff, and she's been busy. So we have some great projects that fall under that umbrella for funding. We have an outdoor exhibit that's coming that will have large-scale mural panels, interpretive signage. It's going to be ADA accessible and right here at our main library. And that's the NEA grant that you see up there on the upper left-hand side of the slide. This is based on that American Heroes initiative, and we were able to work with a local artist and choose the folks that we thought would best represent America, not just our community. So there are Kentuckians in there for sure, but it doesn't have to be Kentuckians. And so we kind of want to put that big umbrella over the whole country and celebrate. We also have a history walk that kind of goes hand in hand with this that a coworker of mine in the history department is working on. She's very talented with the visuals. And the theme is Patriots, Pioneers, and Places that Transformed the County. So these are county-specific folks that we're honoring on this history walk. And that's going to be a permanent display and have lots of great information. And moving on to the next way that we fund things or make things happen doesn't always have to be about money, but we have these wonderful community partnerships that I recommend all of you take advantage of that if you're able, and if you have some groups in your community that are supportive of your libraries and your programming. We work a lot with the DAR and the SAR. We have two very active local chapters, and they really like to do a lot with us. They serve very different needs in terms of programming. The SAR group tends to do more hands-on things, and they do things on their own in the schools. They do interpretive things. They always go in uniform. I got in trouble for calling it costume at one point. It's uniform, but they really do such a nice job. And the DAR does, of course, all kinds of things. We've partnered on projects like the marker projects that they typically sponsor annually. They sponsor one marker for a patriot. A couple special ones that we've done. We did one in 2018 that was a Black patriot that was buried here in Boone County, and that's kind of rare and interesting. And so we got a big group together and we kind of collaborated, and we both shared the cost of that and the labor of that, and that was really nice. We're also partnering with the county this year. I am on the our county's 250th planning committee. We're having a big celebration on June 20th, and that's going to happen actually at our fairgrounds because they're really nice fairgrounds, and they have offered to allow us to use that. And it's going to be all kinds of things like food and speechifying and a drill team, horseback drill team, fireworks and cake and all kinds of fun things. And I'm sure there are going to be lots and lots of giveaways and flags. We have community groups that are going to have booths there. And we have a couple of vending booths as well. And that's been a really nice collaboration with the county because the county is supplying the sound system, and they're putting up a stage, and they're doing all kinds of heavy lifting. Excuse me. And so we're really lucky to have these kind of partnerships. One of the things that the DAR and the SAR have also done with us is they have installed displays in our display case at our main library. And they're wonderful. We've got a couple of them coming up this year. The SAR is doing Life During the Revolutionary Era, and that comes out in June. We do have a member of our DAR group who descends from a Mayflower person, and so she will be doing a whole Mayflower display in May, so that'll be nice. And then they're going to do a commemorative America's 250 in July for the 4th. So they really do a wonderful job of partnering with us. The low cost, no cost. I love these kind of programs. Of course, Kentucky Historical Society, we all love them. They do provide a lot of grant opportunities, but especially with this year, excuse me. However, we chose to bring in one of their speakers for Daniel Boone, and it's funny, being in Boone County, we actually don't take advantage of our name as much as we should, and so we are going to do that this year, and we're going to have the Daniel Boone, the man, the myth, the legend presenter come, and this is absolutely free cost to the library. We also are doing a screening of the American Revolution, the Ken Burns and others series. They've actually provide a wonderful, they have different versions that are different lengths where they edit it either for a theme or for time. We've chosen to do sort of a general one, so it's about a 45-minute screening that's professionally edited and kind of encompasses the spirit of the whole series. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching. But they provided us all this wonderful stuff. A press kit. They provide us with a template that looks sort of like that icon you're seeing there in the center, but on the back it has trivia questions, and so we made those into little coasters that we're going to hand out at the screening. We're going to have popcorn, so it's just a free movie event that's patriotic in theme, and we're doing that on April 30th. So that's coming up. Excuse me. We also, I submit once in a while to the Kentucky Explorer supplement that's now in Kentucky Monthly Magazine. And if you're a writer at all and you'd like to share some things going on in your area, they are wonderful to work with. They're so easy. And so I submitted something that sort of promotes what's happening here and what we're celebrating this 250th, and gives some backstories on some folks in the county that I think are interesting to highlight. They're pioneers. Some of them were fighting in the Revolutionary War. Some of them were witness to the Revolutionary War. And they're just some real interesting stories. And I thought it would be a good opportunity. So that's going to be coming this month, or the next issue, which is March. And that was just a free way for me to get some more information out there. Some of the other programs that we've been working on, this is a funny one because I spoke at Kenton County Public Library as part of their America250 grant-funded series, America's 250 Speaker Series, and that came, I think, to them through Kentucky Historical Society. And they asked me to give a presentation on African Americans during the Revolutionary War, which I was more than happy to do. I enjoyed it. I like partnering with our neighboring counties, because the only other time we really get together too often is we have a Northern Kentucky History Day that we do each year. But this was a nice way for me to go see some familiar faces and some new faces at their Covington branch that houses their local history department. We also put a special thing on our website, and it's going to stay up throughout the year. It is a banner that when you visit our website, bcpl.org, and you click on the local history icon, this will come up right away on our page. And this banner will stay for the year, but it'll eventually go away. But the information will be there. And we actually will have the ability to add more veterans if we would like to after the end of the year, as people start to learn about this. We're kind of encouraging people to submit information and photographs, if they have it, of someone in their family or someone they know who has some connection to Boone County, either born here, died here, lived here at some point, has family here. And we go through a process where they submit a JOT form, excuse me, and it comes to us, and my department vets it as best we can. I'd hate to think that anyone would falsify something, but you just never know. There's pranksters out there. We did put some information on the banner that says that we're focused on World War II and earlier, and that was simply to bring it to people's attention that there are some privacy issues if you want to consider that when you're submitting your loved one's information. So someone who's still alive may not want their information up there. So if it's the veteran themselves and they want to submit it and they're living, that's perfectly fine. Or if they have permission, that's fine too. We don't mind putting up living people. We just thought it would be wise to kind of steer a little bit away from that in case somebody didn't want their information out there. But that's it's fully free to us. We have a digital librarian that helps with that. And we have a database of information that we have added these veterans to that you can go to on our page, and it'll give you a list of them. You can click on their name, you can get their service information and whatever has been submitted to us, be it pictures or any awards they might have gotten while in service. So there's just a really nice little addition that we wanted to do. And what our digital librarian is also doing with this project is she's highlighting different veterans from various wars, and she just puts 3 or 4 highlights up, and you can click on those and learn more about them. And so she's doing, I think she's working her way up from the Revolutionary War right now. So it's going to take a little while before she gets to the more current folks. But that's a wonderful thing that we've gotten great feedback on, and it's going to go on forever. The banner will just come down at the end of the year. We're also partnering with the county to do a bus tour. We already, our history department does host a bus tour for the Underground Railroad. So it's kind of not our first rodeo. We kind of know how to do it. And we do that annually. And this is going to be a special tour that is all about some of the Revolutionary War soldiers that came to Boone County. And this is kind of a partnership between the county fiscal court, who is sponsoring the bus, and BCPL here at the Archive and History Center. I will be helping as a docent on the bus and sort of answering questions. We have a couple other folks who are participating. One of them is a DAR member. One is our preservation and planning leader in the county, who used to be here at the Archive and History Center, Bridget Stryker, if any of you guys know her. She's great. And so that's going to be just a countywide bus tour. We're going to have lunch. We're going to go to some burial sites. We're going to tell some stories and sort of talk about how our county, the sort of European development of our county came through a lot of these people who fought in the Revolutionary War and then moved here. To dispel any rumors, we do not have bounty land in Northern Kentucky. I think that misinformation is out there so broadly that I take every opportunity to tell people that. But we had over, I think, 300 Revolutionary War soldiers that had some contact in Boone County, be it buying land, selling land, or staying here. And I know of at least 125 that died in the county. Presumably, most of them are buried here. We don't know the burial sites of all of them, but we're starting to learn more about that as the research progresses. We have a retired circuit court judge who writes several books on local topics, and he's been working on a book on all these Revolutionary War soldiers. And I've been helping him with all that hard research. And this is kind of the end of that project for him. It's gone to print. And of course, since it's gone to print, we've discovered a couple more. But we're going to do this wonderful tour, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. It's going to involve about 50 participants, and it's going to be most of the day. So from about 9 till about 4. It's going to be a busy day. But that one did not really cost us anything. And we just were able to kind of jump in with our expertise in terms of presenting the information, and the county's picking up the tab. And last but not least, this actually was a grant failure. We went for a grant that was called the Big Read, and it was a whole bunch of activities that were supposed to be centered around a book, a community book read. We had a bunch of books that we were sort of voting on, and the tried and true 1776 won. I was voting for a book about women in the Revolutionary War, but that's okay. This is a great book. And so we didn't get the grant, but we decided at our first meeting that we would go forward with this regardless of whether or not the grant came through. The only challenge for funding that we have with this is getting the actual books. We have a bunch of other things that are happening that we are pretty confident we can fund within our normal budgets. So, and also the fiscal year is going to start again soon, so we can kind of take care of that. This is going to be in the fall from October 1 to November 15th. And we're going to take the idea that we had when we thought we might get the grant and just completely go with it. I'm on the planning committee for that, and we're involving all the departments and all the branches. We do have some partnerships that are going to happen with this. And what we're doing is we're starting with a kickoff concert. and our events coordinator is looking at something patriotic like the Air Force Band, something like that, because they're in Dayton and they have many different size groups that they can send to us. So we might be able to do that one from our normal entertainment budget. We're also going to do all kinds of fun things like take and make kits. One of the ones that I saw was like a little votive holder that was made with tin foil, and they stamped it to make a design and put a little, battery operated candle behind it. It's so cute. And we've got a couple other ones that are in the works. We'll have some speakers come in. I think some of those are going to be free speakers. Some might be funded through our normal budgets. We have a digital exhibit that's being developed right now. And then we have a couple of reenactors that do things like frontier heritage skills. We've got a guy actually coming this week who's wonderful, who does flint knapping. And he always draws a crowd. People love it. Excuse me. That's not part of this particular 6-week span, but that's a good example. Big Bone has a festival that falls right in this window, and so we're hoping that we can have a table at there. It's called the Salt Festival, and they do all kinds of frontier heritage skill things at that. And so we'll just we don't want to take any attention away from their big event, so we will just join them. So that might be an opportunity for us to tell people about what else we're doing. We will be capping it off with a colonial ball, and I haven't heard everything that's going to happen with that. I don't think we quite have finished planning for that, but the colonial ball definitely will involve some period dance instruction, which is going to be funny if I do it, especially. I'm hoping for tri-cornered hats. Yes, indeed. So now we're looking at the most expensive thing, which is the book. We have a foundation here that we may be able to tap into some of those funds. People can donate to our foundation, and they can earmark it for specific things, or they can just generally donate. So we need to look and see how much of that is available. But we've also run into a little bit of a challenge in finding large print versions of this book for our outreach folks. So we're still kind of tackling the problems, but we're hoping it's going to be a really fun period. And it happens far enough away from the 4th of July that people might, sort of be winding down. And maybe this will be a nice thing, and we can get some folks to come out for some more end of the year 250th celebratory things. Excuse me. And that is what I have.
Thank you, Hillary. If folks, I'll put some links in the chat. I know there's a bunch of links that I had shared, and then I've got some links from Hillary, Delaney too. We'll put those in the chat here in a moment. I don't want to overwhelm you all, but I'm going to go on and switch the slides so that Melissa can share. And if you've got questions for Hillary, please feel free to go and put those in the chat, and we will we'll get to those. I've got some questions too, so if you all think of things, put those in the chat or hold on to them, and we'll talk about those here in a few moments. And Melissa, you are welcome to start whenever you're ready. Thank you so much, Hillary.
Thank you. And I want to thank Hillary too. I'm going to snag some of your ideas. They sound really, really good. And obviously I did the whole red, white, and blue thing too. So we're tracking on the same path here. But yes, I am the adult services manager of the Scott County Library, and which means I also do programming. We do not have our own grant writer, but that's sort of fallen to me. So I've been writing a lot of grants lately. And one of those actually came through for us last year. We applied for America250 grant through the Kentucky Historical Society and received it. I want to thank them. But we actually have something interesting going on here, because this is Georgetown's 250 as well. So some of the things that work for one group will also work for the other. And our celebration actually started last November. So which is why we actually basically started off our 250 celebration in November with our grant opportunity. And I will get more on that a little bit later on. So here's, I will give you my contact information again at the end if you need it, but there it is. Cat picture, sorry, got to show the children. So that's Storm and Pepper, who make my life an interesting world. Okay, so now, one of the problems I think a lot of people face when they start looking at a whole year of working on programming, or just something as large as America 250 is, where do you start? And honestly, it's sort of like what they say, eating an elephant. You eat it one bite at a time, because it is just so huge. So the first thing I always recommend is you look at your place. Almost everybody probably has something in their county that's interesting. If it's just an interesting building downtown, or a special church, or a historic site, even old schools, or anything, food, beverages. Is there a certain plant or anything that your area is known for? Kind of put a pin in that and just think, what could I do historic wise that would bring that into a program? Look at time. History.com has this day in history. I believe probably the Kentucky Historical Society also has date sorts of things like this. And it's a good place to go and just say, what was going on in the world? And not only in the world, but maybe in your community. Can you connect to that? Are there people who went through something cataclysmic or historical at some point, so that you can bring them into it as well? And don't forget about past programs. If you had something you did in the past, you can always bring that back to the front, tweak it a little bit, maybe just completely redo it. And you don't have to completely recreate the wheel. We sometimes forget that we, in the past, have done some historic programs that's like, this could work again. It had a great response. And then finally, partners. Oh my gosh, please think of partners. And partners are businesses. They can be any kind of nonprofit group. They can be even other libraries in other counties, historical societies, anything like that. They are wonderful. Not only if they have something that they want to promote, this benefits them as well. They can provide funding, they can provide volunteers, they can just provide ideas. So don't forget your partners for sure. You almost have to have them. So if you're connecting to a place, what are some of the things you can do? A walking tour of downtown is a great kind of thing to do with the Chamber of Commerce and the Historical Society. That's a real good use of at least two partners right there. And this can be either something you plan on a particular day, or that you can do almost like an independent sort of program. So people can pick up a brochure or a flyer and a map and just walk downtown whenever they please. If you want to get really fancy with this, you can provide an audio recording. So some headsets, and they can walk through and listen to sort of a spiel when they get to a certain building or a church or a school or what have you. You think people wouldn't be that interested in their downtown area, but when you start looking at your buildings and you realize how old some of them are, and some businesses that have been around a long time, or maybe haven't, but the building has an interesting past, it really makes it fun. And sometimes people want to join their houses on this tour as well. So you can stop in front of some beautiful houses that seem to frequent a lot of downtown areas, and have a complete tour of residences and businesses. Driving tour of historic churches and cemeteries, kind of like Boone County. We do this every year, and usually in the fall, because we want to hit the fall colors. And it is hugely popular. And it started out as more of a connection with the Genealogical Society and the Historical Society. We still do that with them. But now it's kind of expanded to include more churches, is not just cemeteries. But we would go and plan a route. We try to include different churches and cemeteries every year. And this is a good way to kind of bring attention to those small rural churches, that many of which are struggling to hang on. Their congregations have been here for a long time. The building's really old. Maybe it's not, but the congregation's been around for a while. And they usually have a graveyard connected to them. So it's really fun to go through and look at the familiar local names. We usually partner with a local bus company. So they provide a couple of those small kind of interagency buses. You can get about a dozen people on or so. We load it up with snacks and water. People bring their own lunch. And we partner with one of the churches that has a large meeting room, and that's where we have our lunch. And we just warn people that they need to prepare to walk on uneven ground, wear good shoes, and they do sign a waiver. So if they fall off the bus and hurt themselves, bad things don't happen. We've always had great success with this. We've been doing it probably about a dozen years now. So that is definitely something to think about. Historic Highway Marker Hunt. This has been a great family type program. And again, you can go to the Kentucky Historical site and Society site, and they have a list of historical markers. And it's really fun to map those out in your county and just kind of make this as a passive program. You can keep it at every public desk if you want, and just list them. And have people go and find them in your county. It's almost like a little Easter egg hunt. Sometimes we would have a little prize for somebody that finds them all, maybe a bag from the library or something. But mostly people just want to do it. It's a good excuse to go out and just drive around the county and see places that you haven't seen before and learn a little history along the way. And always include your local history sites if you have one. A lot of times they want some foot traffic as well. So this actually puts them in the forefront. And if they have season passes, this would be a great way to kind of promote them as well. We have just started this year, including in our sort of items to check out that aren't books, passes. We call them experience passes. And we have them for, the horse park and museums and different places. So if you can work out a deal with any of his historical sites anywhere around you and just say, hey, can we buy a pass for a family of 4 or 6 adults or however you want to do it? And then people can check it out for a couple of weeks at a time, and you just kind of keep it for the whole year. So that is a continuing sort of good deed that goes on beyond the 250 year. All right, so if you connect to time, again, there are lots of ways to think about time, not only in terms of a historic program that's connected to a certain date, but think about other things that you can do. And this kind of goes back to that bringing out old programs that you did in the past, maybe tweak them a little bit. I don't know how many of you have had an antiques roadshow type program. We've talked about it for years and haven't actually done it, but I want to so badly. But we also thought, how fun would it be to have almost like a game show? And I'm thinking of some of those things I found on Facebook, the old photo archive that shows up on Facebook sometimes, where someone will find some item in a drawer in their grandmother's house, and they're like, what is this? So how interesting would it be to have almost like a game show where you bring old items or a picture of an item and see how old versus young, what they think this item would be and how it could be used. But also just a straight up antiques roadshow type program for free appraisals of antiques and heirlooms is always fun. And you can always tailor it to just local things or certain years or however you want to do it. But that's always a very popular type of program. And again, Grandma's Attic is sort of like, bring the odd things in and see if anybody recognizes it. This also connects intergenerational type programming. And we're trying to do more of that, where we get the younger people and the older people to work together in a program and learn from each other. So that is something this is a great excuse to actually do that sort of thing. So partners, Kentucky Historical Society, obviously, your local history sites. Don't forget your Chamber of Commerce. Tourism, if you have a tourism group in your county. Of course, KDLA, churches, schools, institutions, but also your neighboring libraries. We're perfectly willing to help. And if we have an expert in anything, we're willing to share them. That's great. And we do need to collaborate more. I totally agree with Hillary on this, that we don't see each other all that often except at conferences or something. And we really need to play together more often, for sure. So these are some of the things that we have done. We did celebrate Lafayette's visit to Scott County. This was actually last summer. So we were a little bit ahead of the America 250, but it works. But Dale Henley had a great presentation. I believe we got him through the Kentucky Humanities Council, but I can double check that. But we also did Revolutionary War in a Trunk, which came as a part of that. It was more for the younger crowd, but the adults loved it as well. So you can kind of take a theme like this and riff on it in a certain way. You can do a lot of different things. And it was more of a community-wide celebration, I guess. We just kind of contributed a few little things like this. And then we started off our actual Georgetown 250 celebration last November with the Mystic Wind Choctaw Social Dances and Drum Circle performance. This was our grant from America 250, which was fabulous. We had about 25 Choctaw come visit us from Mississippi, and they put on quite a show. They brought their antique drums. They had the whole drum circle. They did all the social dances. They pulled us into them. We all learned to dance. And they had a stickball demonstration and out at Ward Hall. So we were able to bring in one of our historic site partners into this as well. And they got some foot traffic that day. So they were appreciative. These people were fabulous. They were just absolutely professional and amazing. And the reason we chose them is because back in the day, the first federal boarding school for Native Americans was here in Scott County, the Choctaw Academy. It was started out well, did not end well, as most of those did not. But this was a chance to bring these people back and sort of reconnect with their culture a little bit here, their original. And it's a family affair. They actually brought their whole families, which was really interesting, and because they include them in all of these cultural events. And I was talking to one of the older members, and he said, yeah, all the way up here, we were telling them about where we began in this part of the country, and we're going back to our roots. So I thought that was really, really cool. And if you're going to start, honestly, with the history of America 250, we probably should start with the people who were here first. So that was kind of our thinking on it as well. It's like, yeah, let's start before we actually got here. As part of Georgetown 250s, we also did the ABCs of bourbon. So it was a whole history of distilling in Scott County, but also in Kentucky, and the whole distilling process and what's involved. We learned a lot of science, as well as history with that program. Mary Miles did a great job. And then now currently we have Heart of the Turf, Racing's Black Pioneers exhibit now up in our library. It's traveling around. Many of you probably have had it. If you haven't, I think it is still going. So it is actually a really interesting way to look at the racing industry and the contribution of African Americans in agriculture in Kentucky. So again, kind of a different take on history, so to speak. So what are we sort of planning to do? Well, we are planning a few things. Back in the day, we had, I don't know if any of you remember, but Antique and Modern Firearms in Lexington. They're gone now, unfortunately. So I'm looking for someone else that can do this, but they came and did a great program on the history of American weaponry, everything from the colonial period through World War II, I believe. And so they brought examples of things and showed us how to clean them and take them apart and take care of them. They did free appraisals. It was a great program for guys. And a lot of times we don't do a lot of programs that include the men. We seem like we do a lot of lady things. So this was a good men and women, kids, everybody came to this. It was really fun. So we're trying to do that again. Historic spring houses and caves. This kind of goes along with our summer reading program, which is what Dig Into a Good Story this year. So we're thinking things that are underground. So any kind of archaeological program would be great as well, but we're thinking about spring houses and caves. Cleaning gravestones. We had a whole workshop on this years and years ago where we learned the proper procedure for cleaning a historic grave or any gravestone, honestly. And then we would go out into the field and we picked a cemetery, and which we had permission to be in, thank you very much. and cleaned gravestones with all the proper tools and the proper chemicals and all that. That is always really fun. Preserving family artifacts. This is another workshop idea. Most everybody has photographs, scrapbooks, grandma's wedding dress, something in their attic, and they just don't know how to preserve it, including old film. And so we could have a whole workshop on how to take care of different artifacts from your family. I didn't have it on the list here, but we are actually doing a film series this summer actually showing some films on like 8mm and some of the really old reel-to-reel films, and show people how to preserve those, because a lot of folks have family movies that are still on these things. Chautauqua presenters. Collecting family stories. Sorry, skipped one. We're very blessed to have a recording studio here. So all of this year, March through November, this coincides with our a Yiddish book grant that we received for this year. We are collecting family stories. It actually goes along with that, but it also fits America 250. So folks can come in each week, and they can reserve the studio and for an hour or 2 hours, and they can just record their stories, their memories, recipes, interview family members. Friends can come together and just interview each other and, hey, remember when? And then they can take a recording of that and share with their friends and family. So we're hoping to get people to really think about their family stories and make sure they collect them, and because these are rather fragile, and we seem to have more screen time than FaceTime anymore. So this is a way to get people together and get them talking. But yes, it was originally intended for the Yiddish storytelling aspect of our grant, but we're also using it for America 250. Chautauqua presenters, please don't forget them. They are amazing. They are wonderful with the Kentucky Humanities Council. And also along with that, they do have a great speakers bureau that are not as expensive, and they cover a variety of topics. And we have had good fortune with them. They are so professional. They're so good. So be sure to check out that site and look at the list of speakers. And then we're going to do kind of a county-wide book discussion, Great Crossings, Indian settler slaves in the Age of Jackson. We have many, many copies of this book here already. We need to get a few more, but we're going to have a county-wide book discussion on that. So I'm sure we will come up with more things, but this is just what we are sort of planning for this year. And finally, here are just a few little resources to add. I think some of these have already been shared by Hillary, but here's my little list. And that is basically all I have.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa and Hillary, both. So anybody have questions? I've got a few to ask our presenters, and I'll go on, I guess, to get us started. Both of you all talked about partnerships. How do you connect? What kind of steps have you taken to make those connections with your historical society? Or Melissa, you talked about churches, and either of you share how you made those connections.
Well, basically, we just call them. I mean, we're just kind of bold and brassy. We are also blessed. Our local historical society, one of my retired colleagues is their president. And so Mike has been in here a lot, like, hey, let's do this program together. Let's do this program together. And we already partner with them a little bit because we have a bigger meeting space. So they do a lot of their meetings here, and including their presenters and their programs and stuff. So we already have that connection. And then any kind of connection with the Chamber of Commerce already connects you with different churches and different groups. But honestly, just pick up the phone and call them. It's, that's almost the easiest way.
I agree. And we also do a lot. Our historical society, I served as president for several years, and so that was an easy connection. But the historical society does presentations and speakers here already. So we have kind of a built-in thing, as Melissa was saying. But The DAR does meet in our meeting rooms. We are not participants in that, but they're a presence here. And so, because of the research involved with those lineage groups, they're often in our local history area. So we already have relationships with them. But I agree. I mean, just picking up the phone is fine. Most people in the community are pretty willing to jump in and help, or offer some sort of help. We have, for our Underground Railroad tour that we do, we switched it up a little bit this year and decided to have our lunch stop at one of our historic churches, and they love hosting that. And so we usually give them a donation of some sort, whatever we can afford from the proceeds of the tour, because we want to spend every dime and not charge the public for anything. But it is really easy to get people on board in the community, because I think there are a lot of people who really want to pitch in.
Thank you all. Hillary, you touched on vetting with the photograph project you have. I know some of our participants today are in smaller libraries. How could you recommend vetting, or just being, when receiving things that people are talking about you're going to put on your website, how can you do that maybe on a smaller scale, or what kinds of things can they do instead of?
Well, for the Veterans Project that we have right now, what we mainly do is just to make sure this person is actually served. That's really easy usually, particularly for non-living veterans. There's almost always an obituary, and that's a quick one and done. For things like medals and any sort of commendations that they have been awarded, sometimes those are mentioned in obituaries. Sometimes they're in the paper at the time the person received them. I use a lot of newspapers for that kind of thing, because, as I'm sure a lot of you know, a lot of the Army service records are not available because they were in a fire. So, for the other arms of the service, it's a little more possible to find things through the archive. But we just kind of depend on the resources that we normally use for genealogy kinds of research for that. In terms of photographs, the photographs that are submitted with the veterans, if the veteran information proves out, then we don't worry too much about the photograph. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Both Melissa and Hillary mentioned books in their presentations, and so I wanted to encourage you all to think about, or are there other books that you and the attendees could think about that you might want to have a book discussion with in your community, whether it's a community read or just a book discussion that you want to have with your book group. That could be another way to connect folks with your patrons with the America 250 celebration. So feel free in the chat to share any of those ideas.
And I will add to that, I don't know how many other libraries have collections of book kits, but we have quite a large one actually here at Scott County, and it's a mixture of fiction and nonfiction. So we do have some nonfiction historical books. They aren't all colonial era things. I know we have one that's the Civil War, and we have some World War II, I believe. And so, but you've got other periods of history that you can sort of hit on in a book discussion, and we are willing to share.
And I think a lot of libraries are willing to share. We also have book kits, and we do a lot of trading back and forth with other library systems.
That's great to know. I mentioned in the chat about KDLA's oral history kits. Of course, we have book kits too. And so you all touched on also working with your local historical society, and Hillary mentioned having a musician, like a band coming in. What kind of coordination does that involve?
Well,
Melissa, you can touch on the coordination with getting the Choctaw Nation to come too.
We do have, we have a programmer. So for the music portion that I mentioned today, she does that throughout the year anyway. So it's pretty taken care of on that end. But I think that even if you don't have a programmer that handles just that kind of entertainment, There are a lot of resources out there. She kind of got online and started looking to see if she could find something that would fit the bill for the Revolutionary War sort of period, and was lucky enough to hit on something that seemed flexible and affordable. I think there are a lot of groups out there. Excuse me.
Melissa, did you want to add anything?
Oh, I was just going to say we were very fortunate that one of the musical presenters who is here a lot, Fred Keems, the Mercer County people probably know him. They put on a great thing at Fort Herod over Memorial Day weekend, Native Dawn. But he's a great resource, and it was actually his wife that connected us to the Choctaw people. So sometimes it's 6 degrees of separation, and you'll find somebody that just totally fits the bill. So be sure to just check around with some of the musicians you've already talked to or you already have worked with and see who they know. You'd be amazed.
Thank you both. Any other questions? I know I've asked most of the questions. I do also, both of you have touched on partnering with other libraries, and I want to encourage that too, and to let you know that the listservs that you are welcome to post things if they are moderated. So if it's not related to libraries and programming, then we may not post it, but you're welcome to post, hey, I've got this performer coming, or I'd like to, what are you doing in, I'm just Casey County, picking up something. So that's a great place to connect with each other as well on KDLA's listserv. So, but any questions from
yeah,
any
we're always
attendees?
stealing ideas from other people, so feel free.
Yeah. I wrote down a few from your presentation, Melissa. So.
Oh, good. Well, I got some from you, so
good.
I learned some things.
Good.
Well, I want to thank again our presenters, Melissa, and folks. If you still got questions, don't feel shy to ask those. I'll just kind of do closing out details. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody going to say something? So I just want to thank you all again for being here. Today's webinar has been recorded. A short link to a survey, I'm going to drop that here in the chat for today's webinar. It helps us to prepare and learn from this, what you liked about this webinar or what you appreciate from our continuing education offerings. So if you want to, you can go on and take that survey. We do plan to record this. It's recorded. We plan to share the recording with you all at a later time. And the PDF of the slides and resources, and I've got to get those links to you all as well. Certificate of attendance will be available in your learner dashboard within a few weeks too. And if you've got questions about that, you can reach out to our continuing education staff. Thank you again to Melissa and Hillary, and I'm going to put some additional links in the chat and their contact information. So I'll put their emails first. And if you have questions and want to brainstorm, you're welcome to email me and I can connect you with Melissa and Hillary. Or if you want to talk about what other resources exist, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm going to put the links that I shared initially, or the links to the slides I shared initially in the chat. So thank you all so much for being here.